What is law of substitution? So law of substitution essentially say through your conscious mind, you can identify and change your thoughts, beliefs, and actions. And because you can change your thoughts, beliefs, and actions, you can change your reality. So one of the main things that when I was growing up or when I was even working, I really didn't know, I didn't understand how to change my own thinking. So I thought, how I think is how I think. And, I would just read books and whatnot. And that will essentially change my mind. But I didn't know that you can consciously change your mind, change your thinking, change your beliefs, change your emotions, change your actions by doing a specific set of activity, which is actually replacing some of the thinking you have, some of the beliefs you have, even some of the emotions. I didn't really know how to do that. So we can specifically substitute, what we talk about, the effects of negative thinking, negative beliefs, actions, thoughts, right? We talked about that. So what I found in my research, especially over the last 6 years, is that you can actually change your negative thinking, negative beliefs by following specific steps. And we talk about how effective, how negatively impact negative thinking patterns and negative beliefs on your emotions, right? When it affects your emotions, it can obviously affect your actions. And obviously, if it can affect your actions, it can affect your reality negatively. So I realized that because we can change the state of the mind, it is a law. And many people, unfortunately, think that they've been used to growing up in certain cultures, change fixed mindset or growth mindset. It's not an applicable thing. So in order to change our mind, we need to believe that we can change it. So that's the only time we can really actually use law of substitution in a way that is useful for us. Right. So I see that many cultures, especially when you reach a specific age, people be like, oh, we are too old to change. We're all too old to change our mind. We're all too old to grow ourselves. So that is a mistake. What I found about the mind is that at any age, you can change your mind, change your thinking, change your emotions. And then because you can change your emotions, you can change your actions and your reality. So that's very important to understand this aspect about the mind. There is a law of substitution where you can actually you have to do this consciously. You can change things the state of the mind if you choose. And what will happen when you're consciously changing your mind or consciously using, either you can change it for the negative sense or you can change it to the positive sense. If you do it enough times repeatedly, you can start reprogramming your subconscious mind. And this is why when we are learning new things, right, especially good ideas, even the books I recommend, even the courses I recommend, using them to substitute your negative thinking is an important thing. And you realize is that your mind cannot think, at the same time, you cannot think positively and negatively about something at the same time. For example, if you cannot think about yourself, even like, I'm a bad person, and I'm a good person at the same time, right? So it's up to us to decide what that is. But obviously, we talked about, negative thinking affect negative beliefs and actions and so forth. So it's up to you to decide what you want to associate yourself to. But it does have an effect, right? And obviously, because it has an effect, your reality can have an effect on that. And then you will see that we can actively, by you coming into these sessions, taking courses, reading books that provides positive thinking, what it will do is eventually it will start replacing your negative thinking over time. So sometimes that is something that people don't really understand, is that you don't need to try to remove negative thinking. You can just start thinking positive or exposing yourself to positive material. And the positive material could be books, courses, working with coaches, mentors, right? Giving, contributing to the world, contributing to others. So these positive actions can have a positive effect on the mind and reprogramming it. So this is really how the law of substitution works. So you can literally do the positive things to remove the negative aspects you have. So say prime example would be, if you're procrastinating, the best way to solve procrastination is through taking action. So more you take action, the less procrastination you will feel the habit of doing. So procrastination, again, it's a habit. It's a problem of continuous avoidance, right? It's a problem of where you have habituated avoiding something. But when you start to take even 30 seconds action, 1 minute action, 2 minute actions, you're replacing that procrastination habit with actual action. And that obviously is a lot more constructive. And what it will do is that it will start empowering you, because you feel more able to control your mind, right? So that's very important to understand, right? So in order to use the law of substitution, identify your thoughts, record on your journal, what type of thoughts do you have about yourself? So generally what I've noticed is that this negative thinking is usually about yourself, right? You're criticizing yourself, continually judging yourself for the mistakes or whatnot, or you're criticizing or judging somebody else, right? So it's tend to be related to those two ideas primarily. And it usually involves your past, right? Usually because of something happened in the past that you're mistakenly judging yourself and others that you probably don't know how to control. So identifying, what are the things that you're thinking about yourself? What are the things that you're thinking about others, right? It's kind of important to understand and record, because as we talk about, writing things in a journal really helps you understand what is going on in your subconscious mind. And if you really don't understand what is going on in your subconscious mind, how can you really change it, right? So these laws primarily function at the subconscious level, because obviously we didn't know about them. But when we can consciously use the law for your advantage, you become more able to control your mind. So in order to control your mind, it's first thing you should do is let's start looking at what are the thoughts and beliefs that you carry. And it might not be the easiest thing to do. I remember when I first started to journal, I didn't know what to write. I really didn't. I didn't know what my beliefs were, whatever, right? So what I started to do is that, when I used to just get upset, I would write about what I was upset about. And then I would ask myself, why do I feel that way? Why do I think that way? Right? So I started during time of upset or overwhelmed, right? When you're feeling overwhelmed, you can write about, okay, these are the things that is happening. These are the things that I'm working on. So you can start at that point. And then you can see whether how you talk to yourself, you can start paying attention to that. Specifically, I noticed that negative thinking usually comes out times of stress, times of overwhelm, times of difficulty. So that's a good time to kind of start journaling about what these things are. And then what you do next is that make a decision to actively let go over time the negative thinking, the beliefs, and the emotions, specifically things related to grievances. So what are grievances? Grievances are essentially negative thinking, specifically, past mistakes that you're holding on to that you have made. You might go like, oh, I should have done that. Oh, they should have done this, because of them I got hurt, or because of I did this, I have lost these things. What you will realize is that with your power of mind, you can accomplish anything. You just need to learn how to use it for your advantage. The prime example is that when I was in university, I thought getting good grades was just given to people who studies. I didn't know that I can start thinking in specific ways and also doing specific actions can get me results. So what I did was I let go of the belief, specifically believing that I cannot get good grades, right? So I started believing, is there a possibility? So I started to question before even I start believing it. I started to ask myself, is there a possibility that if I were to follow a specific set of actions, that I can start getting good grades, right? So that was my substitution. So instead of saying, oh, I'm bad at school, or I'm bad at this, or I'm bad at that, I just started to ask myself, what do I have to do to get good grades? What do I have to do to get a great job? And same thing, when I graduated from university, I studied psychology, not tech or management or leadership, right? So I was wondering, man, what am I going to do for a job? And everybody was also kind of making fun of me. What are you going to do with a psychology degree, right? And it was a very commonplace for me to hear that at that time. And I was also wondering, yeah, what am I going to do? So for like 6 months, I was really confused of what to do. And then I started to look into, okay, what do I have to learn, right? Instead of thinking I'm bad at it, I'm not going to find a job because I study psychology, I started to think, what do I have to learn? What do I have to study in order to become highly skilled, So I started to, at that time, I was very interested in tech, right? Especially tech and business. So I started to say, you know what? Let's see if I can actually learn a little bit of tech, a little bit of business. So I started to take courses. I started to even, work on this website that called High GPA that helped university students get better grades. So that was my initial step. So I used that as a substitution instead of just doing nothing. I started to take action. So I started to learn about technology, like how to build website, how to create emails, how to set up, technical aspects of, like a CRM or email system, right? So all these things I started to learn because I started to substitute my negative thinking and negative beliefs or procrastination with some sort of an activity that can contribute to others. Right, so that started to build my belief. That started to help me develop that, man, I can develop skills. I can develop new things. So that was my beginning of how I started to use law of substitution for my advantage. Right, so then I started to think, positive thinking, positive beliefs, emotions, and actions actually do replace the negative thinking. So I was no longer worried about not getting a job. And what happened was that after been working about 6 months, one of my friends essentially referred me to an interview at Oracle. And, in the beginning, the interview didn't really go well. They realized how much, I studied psychology. I didn't really have a background in tech. But something changed. I started to talk about my website. I started to say, I've been working on this website that helps university students. I've been sending emails. I've been setting web pages, and they were like, wow, really? And they were since that mention, the whole conversation became other than interrogation and interview, it just became a conversation about me telling them what are the challenges I went through, what are the things that I've been doing, and what are the things that I'm looking to do. And it completely changed the conversation altogether. So the reason I'm saying this is that the positive thinking, the beliefs and emotions can really change your reality. Because, if I stayed doing nothing because thinking, psychology isn't going to make me do anything, I'm not going to find a job and all these things. If I kept thinking that, I wouldn't have the result of getting the Oracle job. And they, after that, obviously offered me the position to work in a tech company without any background in tech before or studying tech before. I simply just started because I started to change my thinking and started to take action, positive action, to replace my negative thinking and negative action, what I call procrastination. So that was one of the things that I went through early in my career, that how thinking positively and then taking positive action have contributed to my life positively. Okay. So what are some ways so after I've been going through this journey, I've realized, there are certain things, certain beliefs that doesn't really give you good emotions, good actions, or it leads to procrastination. So what are some of the negative beliefs and its corresponding positive beliefs that you can take on, or positive thinking that you can take on? And I see that many people, unfortunately, think they're not good enough, or they don't believe in themselves. Right. So I see this problem for many because, even though this belief is coming from, assessing themselves, they are a lot of the time assessing themselves the wrong way, simply because they don't understand. Many of us, right, even myself, including myself, I didn't really understand how to use the mind to think positively or take positive action. So we mistakenly think we're not good enough things because of we probably had, certain defeats, certain mistakes we made, certain failures that we went through early in life. But what I've noticed is that when you can actively change the way you think, I am enough, exactly I am, and I grow every day, you will start to think, whether is that even a possibility? Can I grow every day? Can I develop new skills? Can I become actually good at something? I would say just ask the question, can I be good at this? I can tell you another example. When I came to Canada, I couldn't speak English. I couldn't write a sentence. I couldn't converse with anybody. I really couldn't. And if you knew me at that time, you would know that. But I realized, I'm going to find a way to grow and be able to speak English. And since that day is that the day that I started to be able to, obviously I didn't get the skill right away, is I started to believe in myself. And I realized that, even when I'm thinking, can I grow? Can I get better? I started to actually grow, right? So that's one of the major things that I went through personally for myself. And then sometimes I, even I see that in many people, is that sometimes they believe they mess things up. They always mess things up. But what I've seen is that, if you started to take on the belief, I can learn, I learn and improve with every experience. If you were to believe that, you will be actually getting better. So that's one of the things that I actually did when I was studying in university, is that every time I would read a sentence, I would think, I'm getting better every day. I'm learning every day. So I realized this, just positive thinking alone is not enough, really. It needs to be backed up by some sort of an action. So the more you can take an action with your positive belief, the stronger the belief, the new belief becomes. So when people are trying to say, oh, you just have to think positively, I didn't find it working. I found, yeah, you need to think positive, but you also have to take action that is associated with that. So the more you take action and you believe that's when you get the most beneficial results. So it's important to remember that. Many people unfortunately think when they're learning about law of substitution, oh, as long as they think positively, everything would just work out. It doesn't really work that way, at least not for me. What I found is that, yeah, positive thinking is vital, right? It is important. Taking action, that is even more important when you're doing that type of thinking. Okay, so important to understand. And thinking also things like, I can change, right? But what reality of the mind is that it's continually changing, continually growing, continually expanding, right? So when your mind is expanding, it is actually false to think that you can change. So if you remind yourself, I can change, maybe you might not think that right away. Maybe even think like, can I change? Am I able to grow? Let's see. Let me see what I can do. Let me take some action and see if that's possible. Then when you keep questioning that's what I'm saying. The questioning is very valuable in the beginning, even if before you even start to repeat these things, right? So initially, even me, when I just repeatedly, oh, I can change, I'm capable of growth, I'm getting better and better, I didn't really believe it, to be honest, because it wasn't really resonating with my mind. My subconscious mind, even my conscious mind, subconscious mind, both would just say, no, reject it. We don't believe it. Even though you're saying it, we don't believe it. But again, when the change really came, is that when I be like, can I change? Can I take some action that can see that? That's when it really started to happen, right? So that's important to remember. And then many people unfortunately believe that they can never succeed, right? But what you realize is that success is a journey. And sometimes, the steps, mistakes, the failures that you have gone through in life are stepping stones. So the prime example for this, I use basketball, right? One of my favorite players is Steph Curry. So even him, right, when he's taking 3-point shots, he's failing 60% of the time. So that's a lot of failures, even for a professional elite athlete. So failure is literally part of the journey. Mistakes are literally part of the journey. When you're taking a lot of action towards success, it's absolutely necessary and useful to make mistakes, because then that actually builds what you need to know to understand what will give you results. And if you think, oh, you can get success without making mistakes or failing, this is not how reality really works. Even if you were to look at nature, you can see, things like evolution works based on trial and error, right? So if you're not willing to trial things out, to get things wrong or error, we can't really succeed. So success is not about success and failure. Success and failure is part of success, right? Not just success. So this is important to understand. Winning and losing is part of success, right? The more we can understand how to handle and how to look at our failure, how to look at our mistakes the right way, the more successful we become. So this is why law of substitution is important, to know the basis of success, the nature of success. Without failing, there is no success. Without being able to expose yourself to things that are difficult and challenging, there cannot be success. So it's important to understand and reframe your own mind. It's not really about success and failure. success and failure is necessary for success, right? Very important to understand. Mistakes are part of learning. You can be more mistakes you make, the more you overcome them, more you naturally become resilient. So there's a lot of people are looking to become more mentally strong and mentally resilient, emotionally resilient, right? So one of the things is that the way to become more resilient is how you look at your failures. So if you can use your failures and adversities and challenges for your greatest good, you will naturally become resilient. This is the truth. So you'll see in my past, even when I came to Canada, I felt like such a failure. Why? Couldn't speak English, couldn't write. And I remember a time even my teachers were, bullying me, saying, because they didn't understand. I just came to Canada. They just thought, I'm not good at it, right? They were just picking on me and volunteering me to speak in front of class. So it was a very difficult time. But what I realized, I'm good. I didn't know what I was doing, but I used that pain, used that challenge as a way to, I'm going to get better. So what happens, I actually graduated, on the dean's list, and also in high school, and also became the captain of my rugby team, because I learned how to use failure and negativity for my greatest good. So one of the main things, one of my biggest phrases or biggest quotes or affirmations that to this day I've practiced, and more now, I even forgot this for years, is that looking at my challenges and adversities as my greatest good. So I use my challenges and adversities for greatest good for all. So even these sessions are coming because of that, because I went through challenges. I went through challenges in all aspects, through my work life, even when I was going burned out, stress, anxiety, even before they were in university, work issues, relationship issues. They are now have become my own lessons that I teach you about and how to overcome them, right? So I use this example, who's the best person you can learn things from? Usually it's somebody who have gone through a problem. So for example, say that you fall into a hole, right? Say abandoned well, right? So who's the best person to get you out of that hole? Somebody who has a PhD in wells or holes, or somebody who has fell into the hole and have gotten out? Who would you ask to get help from more? So people, if you want to become resilient, start changing the way you're thinking about your adversities. I literally think I'm going to, even when I go through certain challenges, whether it's business or whether it's relations, I'm going to use this for my greatest good and bring the best out of myself. That's one of the things that I actually intend every time I feel, a little bit of failure, a little bit of difficulty, a little bit of challenge. I said, I'm going to use this for my greatest good. I'm going to use this for my greatest good. I'm going to use this for my greatest good, right? I keep repeating that. And then I obviously take action later on, right? But I keep thinking that to change how I want. And then I've seen it work, right? I can tell you that it works, right? If you keep repeating that, against your challenges and problems, I'm going to use this for greatest good. I'm going to use this for greatest good. It can have a tremendous impact on your subconscious mind. And if you can back it up with action, that helps you take action towards the thing that you want, your goals, it will become more solidified in your subconscious mind as well. Okay? Very important stuff. Again, something that I wish somebody had told me earlier, but at least I'm telling you now, and I remind myself this all the time now. I always tell, everything I wish I knew earlier, but also the things that I want to remember and use. So that's how I kind of, make sure that I tell you the most important things and how I myself remember these things. And another thing is that many people worry about, judgment, being judged by others, right? So one of the things I realize is that many people need approval, love, understanding, and comfort of other people, and which is completely understandable and fair. But you will see that you will have more self-confidence, more authenticity, better self-esteem, ability to accomplish things when you can love and trust yourself, and when you can fully express yourself the way you want to express yourself. So one of the main things is that I realized that when you can authentically show yourself, your mistakes, whatever may be, who you are, you become more confident in yourself. You start to believe in yourself. So you don't need to get approval, or you don't need to worry about what other people are judging you. what I say is that start being yourself more fully, right? Explore what is fully exciting you, explore what is beneficial for you and what feels right for you, and then express that. And if you need to conform to other people's wishes and judgments, then you're not really living your life to the fullest. So it's important that you understand that when you can live your life to the max, in order to live your life to the maximum, express yourself the way you want without worrying about judgment of others. Very valuable, okay? Important one.